The folder hits my desk like a slap. Conference room. 8 faces. None looking at me. Malcolm Pierce sits at the head of the table. Navy suit pressed sharp, silver watch catching the light. He slides the manila folder forward with 2 fingers like it's contaminated. Effective today, he says. Voice smooth as oil. I open it. Termination letter. Performance deficiencies in bold. He doesn't mention the contract. The one I told him would violate federal law. The one I begged him not to sign. He doesn't mention that I was right. Because admitting that means admitting he was wrong. And Malcolm Pierce doesn't do wrong. He just finds someone to blame. My hands don't shake when I close the folder. I've been preparing for this moment since the day I sent that email. I look up. Meet his eyes. He blinks first. Do I get to respond? I ask. This decision is final, he says. I nod once. Stand. Leave the folder on the table. I don't need it. I kept copies of everything. The hallway stretches forever. Security badge already deactivated. Box of personal items already packed by someone else. My coffee mug with world's okayest boss sits on top, handle broken. People pretend to be busy as I pass. Screen suddenly fascinating. Phone calls suddenly urgent. Tessa from accounting catches my eye. Mouth sorry behind her hand. I nod. Keep walking. Inside, my chest burns. 6 years building this compliance department from nothing. 6 years protecting this company from itself. Erased in 20 minutes. The elevator dings. I step inside. My reflection stares back from the steel doors. 42 years old. Gray blazer. Hair pulled back. Face calm. But my jaw is clenched so tight my teeth ache. Malcolm thinks he won. He thinks firing me solves his problem. He doesn't know I've been documenting everything for 8 months. Every ignored warning. Every altered report. Every lie. The doors close. I exhale. Now the real work begins. My name is Carla Hoffman. For 6 years, I was Director of Compliance at Pierce Industries. Not the most glamorous title, but critical. I made sure we followed the law, prevented disasters, saved the company millions in avoided fines. Malcolm hired me himself back when the company was smaller, scrappier. Said he valued straight shooters who wouldn't kiss up. I believed him. I built systems, trained staff, created protocols that actually worked. I wasn't just good at my job. I was the best they had. That's why they needed me gone. Because I couldn't be controlled. And in Malcolm's world, loyalty meant silence. When I stopped being silent, I became expendable. But here's what Malcolm miscalculated. I didn't just know where the bodies were buried. I drew the map. For months before they fired me, I wrote the email. Subject line, urgent, legal risk with TechCore agreement. The contract with TechCore looked perfect on paper. Big client, big revenue, Malcolm's pet project. But I found the clause, buried on page 47. Data storage requirements that violated 2 federal regulations and 1 international treaty. I highlighted it, color-coded it, attached the relevant statutes, sent it to Malcolm, the legal team, and our CFO. Malcolm's response came in 10 minutes. Carla, appreciate the diligence, but legal cleared this. We're moving forward. Please focus on your other priorities. I replied, this wasn't cleared. I checked. We need external counsel review. No response. I printed everything. Saved it to 3 different drives. Cloud backup. Call it paranoia. I call it experience. The TechCore deal exploded 2 weeks ago. Federal Trade Commission sent a letter. Investigation opened. Potential fines in the millions. Suddenly everyone remembered that contract existed. Malcolm called an emergency meeting. Lawyers everywhere. Panic thick enough to choke on. He asked to approve the contract. Everyone looked at everyone else. Then he looked at me. Said, Carla, you were supposed to flag issues like this. I said I did. For months ago. His face went white, then red. I have no record of that, he said. I said, I have the email chain. The room went silent. He said, we'll discuss this later. That's when I knew I was getting fired. They gave me the termination folder with a non-disclosure agreement attached. Standard procedure, the HR director said. Just sign here and here. Severance is contingent on signing. I smiled. Said I wanted my lawyer to review it first. Malcolm's jaw tightened. That's not how this works. Then I'm not signing today, I said. He tried intimidation. Mentioned how difficult I was making this. How unprofessional. I just stared until he looked away. Before I left, I requested a digital copy for my records. They sent it that afternoon. Sloppy work. The PDF had metadata. Comment threads between Malcolm and legal. Make sure the NDA is signed before anyone talks to the board. Another comment. Keep timeline vague regarding her warnings. They were planning to bury the truth. Permanently. I forwarded everything to my personal email. Encrypted backup. Then I started making calls. The safe deposit box wasn't dramatic, but it was necessary. Inside, printed emails, flash drives, recorded conversations. Every time Malcolm overruled a compliance recommendation, every altered document, every meeting where he said, "Let's just push this through." I'd been saving it all. Not for revenge, for protection, because I'd seen this pattern before at my last company. Good people fired for telling the truth. Reputations destroyed. I wasn't going to let that happen to me. The evidence was organized chronologically, color-coded by severity, cross-referenced with company policy violations. I'd spent months building this file because I knew Malcolm's type. Charming until challenged. Loyal until inconvenienced. Now I just needed to decide what to do with it. The answer came from an unexpected source. Her name was Diana Reeves, former VP of Operations. Left Pierce Industries 2 years ago after philosophical differences with Malcolm. I'd always liked Diana. She had spine, told uncomfortable truths. I called her from my car outside the bank. She answered on the second ring. "Carla?" I heard. "I'm so sorry." "Don't be sorry. Be ready to help." Silence. "Then you kept records?" "Everything." Her laugh was sharp. "Then let's burn this place down." We met at a coffee shop 30 miles from the office. She brought her own files. Turns out I wasn't the first person Malcolm had thrown under the bus. Diana had documentation too. Harassment complaints ignored. Financial irregularities covered up. A pattern spanning years. "He's done this 6 times, she said. 6 good people fired to protect his mistakes. "Not this time," I said. We started planning. Before I turned in my badge, I made one final stop. The intern desk. Raj Patel, 24. Smart as hell. Observed everything. I'd mentored him for 6 months. Taught him to question everything, document everything. He saw me coming and stood up. "Miss Hoffman, I can't believe they." "Listen carefully," I said quietly. "Have you noticed anything odd with email routing?" His eyes widened. He nodded. He pulled up his laptop. Showed me back-end logs he'd been monitoring. Malcolm had been intercepting my emails for months, redirecting them to his assistant. Some never reached their intended recipients. My compliance warnings. My risk assessments. Buried. "Can you send me these logs?" I asked. "Already did. To your personal email. This morning." "Smart kid. They're going to delete everything," I said. "Can you?" Already copied the whole compliance drive. It's in 3 places. I could have hugged him. I scheduled an exit interview with HR, standard procedure. But I came prepared. Voice recorder in my bag, legal in 17 states. The HR director, Patricia Mills, sat across from me with her corporate smile. "We want this to be amicable," she said. "Then explain why my termination letter cites performance issues when I have no written warnings in my file." Her smile flickered. "Well, there were verbal discussions." "Document them." "I'm sorry. Show me the documentation of these verbal warnings. Dates, witnesses, content." She shuffled papers. "I'm sure it's here somewhere." "It's not, because it doesn't exist." Patricia's face flushed. "Mr. Pierce has the right to terminate at-will employees. Not for whistleblowing. Not for refusing to participate in regulatory violations. That's not what this is." "Then what is it?" She had no answer. Just the sound of papers rustling. I left with the recordings safely stored. More evidence for the pile. Malcolm scheduled an investor dinner. Annual event. Big donors and board members. I found out through Diana's sources. She still had friends inside. I didn't crash it. Didn't make a scene. I waited in the parking garage. Dressed professionally. Calm. As each board member arrived, I approached with a smile. "Excuse me, Mr. Henderson. I'm Carla Hoffman, former director of compliance. I think you should see this before tonight's dinner." I handed him a flash drive. Plain label, Pierce Industries, Regulatory Compliance Review. He looked confused, but took it. I did this 6 times. 6 board members, 6 flash drives, same content on each. The TechCore contract, my warnings, Malcolm's responses, the timeline showing he knew about the risks. No speeches, no drama, just evidence. Then I left. By the time they sat down for appetizers, 3 of them had already opened files. The next morning, Malcolm sent a company-wide email. Subject, recent concerns addressed. He wrote that all regulatory issues were being handled appropriately, that the company had strong compliance systems, that recent personnel changes were unrelated to any legal matters. He copied the board, the legal team, everyone. What he didn't realize, he hit reply all to my original TechCore warning email, the one from 4 months ago, the one he claimed he never received. Now the entire company could see it. Date stamp, my detailed warnings, his dismissive response. The contradiction was beautiful. His current email said everything was handled properly. The thread showed he'd ignored clear warnings. My phone started buzzing within minutes. Former colleagues, industry contacts, everyone saw it. Malcolm tried to recall the email. Too late. Screenshots everywhere. Malcolm went into crisis mode. Company Slack channels locked. Internal email restricted. Emergency meetings. But the toothpaste was out of the tube. Someone posted the email thread on Blind, the anonymous workplace forum. Then it spread to Reddit, industry message boards. Then someone found Diana's files. The pattern of terminated employees. The complaints. Twitter picked it up. LinkedIn exploded. CEO of Pierce Industries fires compliance director after she warns about illegal contract, trended in business circles. Malcolm issued a statement. These allegations are false and defamatory. But the evidence was public now. Timestamped. Verified. His lawyers sent me a cease and desist letter. I forwarded it to my attorney with a note. Tell them to try harder. The narrative was shifting, and Malcolm couldn't stop it. I filed the formal complaint with the Securities and Exchange Commission on a Tuesday morning. 40 pages. Every email, every warning, every document showing Malcolm knew about the violations and proceeded anyway. I included the intercepted email logs, the altered reports, the timeline showing systematic obstruction of compliance. My attorney said, "This is the most thorough whistleblower complaint I've ever seen." The SEC opened an investigation within 48 hours, sent document preservation notices to Pierce Industries. Malcolm couldn't delete anything now. It was all evidence. They interviewed me for 6 hours. I brought binders, flash drives, organized by date and topic. The lead investigator said, "You've done half our job for us." I said, I had plenty of time. 6 years of watching him cut corners. They asked if I wanted anonymity, whistleblower protection. I said no. I wanted my name on this. I wanted everyone to know who told the truth. Diana dropped her own bomb that week. She'd been writing a blog about corporate accountability, posted a detailed piece, the cost of speaking up, my experience at Pierce Industries. She didn't name Malcolm directly. Didn't have to. Every detail was identifiable. The harassment, the intimidation, the pattern of retaliation against women who challenged him. Other former employees started coming forward. Comment sections filled with similar stories. A journalist contacted me. Major business publication. They were writing a feature. I agreed to an interview. On the record, I told them everything. Showed them everything. The article published 2 weeks later. Front page of the business section. How Pierce Industries built a culture of compliance violations. My email was Exhibit A. Malcolm's response was Exhibit B. The narrative was no longer about a disgruntled employee. It was about systematic corporate misconduct. Malcolm's lawyers called me on a Friday afternoon. "We'd like to discuss a settlement," the lead attorney said. I said nothing. "We're prepared to offer $200,000. Full confidentiality. Mutual non-disparagement." I waited. "Ms. Hoffman, did you hear me?" "I heard you. So, are you interested?" send it in writing, with an admission of wrongdoing, and a commitment to implement the compliance reforms I recommended. We can't admit wrongdoing. Then we have nothing to discuss. He tried again, offered 300,000, then 500,000. I repeated my terms, admission, reforms, or nothing. They never sent anything in writing. Good. I didn't want their money. I wanted accountability. The recordings were my nuclear option. Malcolm had insisted on weekly one-on-one meetings. Just the two of us. His office. I recorded every one. Legal in our state with single-party consent. In one recording from 3 months ago, Malcolm said, "Look, I know you're right about the tech core issues. But if we admit that now, we're toast. The board will crucify me. Just keep it quiet until we figure out damage control." I'd said, "That's obstruction of justice if this becomes an investigation." He'd replied, "It won't. Trust me." I played that recording for the lead SEC investigator, then for the journalist, then for the board's lead independent director. The director's face went gray. This is exactly what we were afraid of." "Then do something about it," I said. 3 days later, they called an emergency board meeting. The board meeting happened on a Wednesday. I wasn't there, but Diana had sources. She texted me updates in real time. The independent directors confronted Malcolm, asked about my allegations, about the emails, about the recordings. He denied everything at first, said I was disgruntled, making things up. Then they played the recording, his own voice, his own admission. The room went silent. One director asked, "Is this your voice, Malcolm?" He couldn't answer. Another director, "Did you knowingly approve a contract that violated federal regulations?" Still silence. The chairman said, "I think we have grounds for immediate termination." They voted. Unanimous. Malcolm was escorted from the building within an hour. His photo scrubbed from the website by end of day. Press release issued. Malcolm Pierce has been removed as CEO effective immediately. I read it from a coffee shop. Didn't smile. Not yet. This was justice. Not victory. Not yet. The company issued a second press release the next day. Pierce Industries takes compliance seriously. We are cooperating fully with all regulatory investigations. We have retained external counsel to review our systems and implement reforms. They announced an interim CEO. Someone from outside. Someone with a compliance background. The first thing she did, call me. "Ms. Hoffman, I've reviewed your files. Your recommendations from 2 years ago. If we'd implemented them, none of this would have happened." "I know," I said. "Would you consider coming back?" "As Chief Compliance Officer. Full executive authority. Board reporting. Name your salary." I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. "No, but I'll consult. I'll help you build the right systems. Train the right people. Then I'm done." She agreed. We signed a contract the next day. I wasn't going back to save them. I was going back to finish what I started. The SEC concluded their investigation 3 months later. Their report was scathing. Systematic compliance failures. Leadership that prioritized profit over legality. Retaliation against whistleblowers. They fined Pierce Industries $12 million. Malcolm personally was banned from serving as an officer or director of any public company. Fined $2 million. Criminal referrals sent to the Department of Justice. The report specifically noted, Ms. Hoffman's warnings were clear, timely, and accurate. Her termination constitutes textbook whistleblower retaliation. They cleared me of any wrongdoing, praised my professional integrity and courage. I framed that page, hung it in my new office. Malcolm never apologized, never reached out. People asked if I expected one. I didn't. Men like Malcolm don't apologize. They rationalize. They blame. They move on. He hired a PR firm, tried to rehab his image, posted on LinkedIn about lessons learned and growth opportunities. I blocked him, didn't read it, didn't care. I wasn't waiting for his redemption arc. I was writing my own story, and my story didn't need his approval. The job offers started coming in. Chief Compliance Officer positions, director roles, VP opportunities, companies that wanted someone who wouldn't back down. One firm offered me partner-level position, corporate governance consulting. Twice my old salary. Full autonomy. The CEO said, "We read about what you did." That's exactly the kind of integrity we need. I accepted. Started the next month. My first client, a tech company worried about regulatory compliance. I built them a system that actually worked. Trained their people. Showed them how to speak up without fear. They implemented every recommendation. It felt good. Building instead of fighting. Creating instead of defending. This was what I was meant to do. 6 months after Malcolm's firing, the criminal charges came. Department of Justice indicted him for securities fraud and obstruction of justice. The headline made national news. Former Pierce Industries CEO indicted for regulatory violations. My email was Exhibit 1 in the prosecution's case. My testimony scheduled for next month. The lead prosecutor called it one of the clearest cases of corporate misconduct and retaliation we've seen. Malcolm's defense attorney tried to claim he was misled by subordinates, that he relied on experts. The prosecutor played my recordings, showed my emails, demonstrated that Malcolm knew exactly what he was doing. The jury took 4 hours to convict. Guilty on all counts. Sentencing, 3 years federal prison, 5 years probation, permanent ban from corporate leadership. I watched from the gallery. Didn't smile. Didn't cry. Just watched. Justice isn't always satisfying, but it's necessary. I gave my first keynote speech at a compliance conference. 500 people. Standing room only. I told my story, showed the emails, explained the timeline, talked about the cost of staying silent versus the cost of speaking up. Women waited in line afterward, some crying, some angry, all grateful. One woman whispered, "That was my story too." I got fired last month for flagging fraud. I thought I was alone. "You're not alone," I said. "And you don't have to stay silent." I started a consulting practice specifically for whistleblowers. Help them document, strategize, survive. Because I learned something through all of this. Speaking up shouldn't require heroism. It should be normal, expected, protected. But until it is, I'll help people navigate the system. One case at a time. I stood on my apartment balcony that night. City lights spreading below. Glass of wine in hand. The legal battle finally over. The scars are still there. Some nights I still wake up angry. Still replay the moment Malcolm slid that termination folder across the table. But I survived. More than that, I won. Not because I destroyed Malcolm, though that happened, but because I refused to let him destroy me. I refused to stay silent. Refused to sign away my truth. Refused to let fear win. The folder he handed me was supposed to be the end of my story. Instead, it was the beginning. Because here's what Malcolm never understood. You can't silence someone who's already decided to speak. You can fire them, threaten them, try to bury them. But if they kept receipts, if they documented everything, if they refused to disappear quietly, then you've just made them dangerous. And I was always dangerous. I just needed him to push me far enough to prove it.